A toxic relationship is where you have to create a false identity in order to maintain a relationship. This can happen for multiple reasons, and it can happen in any relationship that you maintain throughout your life. In fact, there are going to be toxic relationships that you choose to keep within your life. I am Louise Ann, a motivational speaker and a female empowerment coach, and I'm going to be explaining in this video a few things that I think are really important to understand about toxic relationships and how they impact us. So, if you consider when we are born, we have what we call our souls. There are many different names for it, but it can be known as your soul, your higher self. But for this, we're going to describe it as like a diamond. It is the truth and the authenticity of all you truly are at the very heart of hearts. It is your core. And that diamond comes into this world and it is incredible, it is beautiful. However, the world that we live in is not one that really is designed to help maintain the brilliance of that diamond. So what happens is, because we are pack animals and when we are born we have to be nurtured and looked after by our parents or our caregivers, we end up hiding parts of our diamond and shifting who we are to be who they want us to be. It is a survival instinct. So in order to be accepted and have our place within the pack, we will shift and change our identity so that we have our place, we have our role, and it's that we don't get cast out. And that is a survival instinct. So if you consider, it's like having your diamond and then concealing parts of it with mud and shaping that to be who your parents, who your family, who your caregivers need you to be or want you to be. Then you go to school and the same thing happens again. Suddenly you're in a new situation, new people, new community, new group, and you will do the same thing again. You will shift and change your identity to be who other people want you to be, or who you think other people want you to be. Whether that's the class clown or whether that's the girly girl or whatever else, you will create another persona in order to maintain relationships with your peers in your class or your teachers or whoever else. Growing up, we go through life and we create yet another layer, another persona, and that will be for different friendship groups. And then it'll be when you go to secondary school, high school, college, whatever, when you start dating people, when you get married, when you have kids, all of these different events in our lives, different relationships that you have, they all will create a new persona in order for you to maintain those relationships. Whether you realize you're doing it or not, it is a survival instinct. It is to try and stop the rejection that you may face from people seeing the authentic you. And it is the way that society teaches us to be. So we conform and we suppress and we hide parts of ourselves. We don't show our brilliance and we try and fit in. And that's what we do. So we mold all of these layers of mud to try and fit in and maintain the relationships in our lives. When an event happens, like a divorce or losing your job, that kind of thing, when a big event like that happens, the reason it feels like your life is falling apart is because one of those personas or multiple personas will be falling away. They are no longer needed. They are no longer required. If you are not married anymore, the personas that you created in order to maintain that relationship, in order to maintain that marriage, if they're no longer needed, they will shift and they will fall away. If you have a job and you lose your job, you get made redundant or you move on to another job, sometimes there is an uncertainty because those personas will fall away. The version of you that you created for your colleagues, for your boss, for the role that you were doing, that will fall away. Then, empty nesters, the persona that they created of being the caregiver and looking after their kids and everything else, when their children all move out, suddenly that persona that they created, that idea of who they were, that falls away. And the issue isn't about the fact that we have all of these personas, all of these versions of ourselves. The issue is the fact that we see the personas, these packs of mud that we put around ourselves to hide our brilliance, we see that as our identity. We create a false identity using the personas that we put on for other people. So we start identifying ourselves that way. I am a mum, and that is not who you truly are at the core. But because we have put so many layers on, we've pretended to be these people for so long, we start losing the connection that we have with who we authentically are on the inside. And that's where the issue is. So a lot of the times when people maintain toxic relationships, it is because they don't realize that that's what they're doing. They're not aware that they have created a false persona. It's just that's who they have to be. They will start to label themselves as people pleasers or chameleons, and they will kind of give it a nicer name because it makes it feel more comfortable. Toxic relationships are a bit like alcohol. So we know that alcohol is toxic. We know it's a toxin, but people still drink and they're okay. Alcohol can be filtered through the body in small amounts. And that's the same with toxic relationships. As long as the toxic relationships that you have in your life, you are aware of, and you are aware that they are having this impact on you, and you detox from the toxic relationships and reconnect with who you truly are, then you're not going to be suffering as massively as if you were just living your entire life with these toxic relationships. Because the truth is, with the toxic relationship, you are not giving the other person the opportunity of having a relationship with the authentic you. You are not giving other people the opportunity to see the diamond that exists within you, the brilliance that you have, and that is robbing them of the opportunity of loving you more and loving you more authentically. So it is a detrimental impact that, it happens both ways, that you may be creating a toxic relationship, not because it is required, but because you are so scared of being rejected that you feel that you have to. That is a self-rejection. That is you looking and saying, well, I'm not good enough as I am, so I will try and be who you want me to be. So that's a brief overview of toxic relationships and how they impact us. So if you consider the relationships that you have in your life, have a look and decide, in these relationships, who is it that I have to be in order to maintain this relationship? What parts of me have to be kept in order to maintain this relationship? What parts do I think they would reject? And why do I think that? Because the reality is, if you just maintain all of these toxic relationships in your life, you're not giving people the opportunity to love you authentically, but also you're losing connection with your authentic self. And eventually life will hit you and all of those pieces of mud will fall away, and the only thing that will not collapse at that point is that diamond that you have inside, and eventually you're going to have to reconnect with it. And it's unsettling when everything falls apart, and it does feel really unnerving. But the reason that you are struggling, the reason that you struggle with your mental health, the reason that you feel exhausted, the reason that you feel like your life is falling apart and you don't know who you need to be anymore, it is because you have lost connection with who you truly are. You're not losing yourself, you are losing all of the false perceptions that you have created. And you're allowed to lose those. You're not meant to live shielded behind all of these layers that you put on to make everybody else accept you. You're meant to live your life authentically and showing your brilliance and accepting yourself for who you truly are. There are always going to be people in your life that you have to maintain a relationship with. And yes, it may be a toxic relationship because they won't accept you for all you are. Careers have a tendency to do that. Your job, you have to maintain a professional persona. But as long as you tune into the weird, the wacky, the quirky, the odd version of you, and you allow your authenticity to shine in other places, it's not going to affect your mental health as much. If you do want to know more, reach out. If you have any questions, just drop them below. Stay awesome.